Everything was going extremely well for Norm Duke in the mid-2000s. He was winning titles and in the 06-07 season won 3 titles. But then suddenly, things started to go horribly wrong. Injuries and illness stopped him in his tracks and suddenly he was in serious danger of losing his spot on the tour. And at 43 years of age, this really seemed like this situation could be the beginning of the end of his career. Age will catch up with everyone and it seemed like it had finally happened to Norm. However, he not only managed to turn things around, but he also made some serious bowling history along the way. In this video, I'm going to look at exactly how he went from being in danger to losing his place on the PBA Tour to creating PBA history. I'll firstly look at what happened and how he bounced back, and then break down the skills he had in order to turn his season around and essentially save his career. Because if he had lost his exemption place at 43 years of age, things could have been very different. Yes, there's every chance he would have got back on the tour at some point, he was just so talented, but at that age, with those injuries creeping in, nothing was guaranteed. And of course, if he had a year or two not on the tour as an exempt player, that could have ended a lot of momentum and maybe he only wins 1 or 2 more titles to finish his career. So it really was a crucial point in his career that could have gone either way. We're going to rewind to the year 2007. At the start of the 07-08 season, he was coming off the back of a very strong season in 06-07 with 3 wins. Plus he'd won at least 1 title in every season since 02-03, so things were going very well for him. But the start of the 07-08 season was not a good one. Problems quickly arose as he battled constant illness, which only added to the other problems he had, involving a series of injuries during the first half of the season. He said himself that the first 3 tournaments of the season he felt healthy, but after that he had not been healthy during any PBA events. These struggles are therefore completely understandable due to his health, but it meant there were serious consequences for his place on the PBA Tour. The PBA was very cutthroat back then due to its exemption format. Bowlers earned exemptions in various ways by winning tournaments or winning one of the 4 major tournaments and also where you placed in the points list as well. But one of the big problems with the exemption tour is that even the best players can have a bad season for a multitude of reasons. So unless you earned a multi-year exemption by winning a major, you essentially were fighting for your place on the tour season after season. The amount of pressure that can put on you is immense. Norm found himself in a precarious position as the season went on. He was just 51st in points and this meant his tour exemption was in serious jeopardy. He had to somehow put all of his injury and health issues aside and find a way to finish the season with a title. That brings us to the PBA World Championship, which was held in late February 2008. He finally managed to get things going and made the show, and that was his first TV appearance of the season. In the semi-final, Norm would play Walter Ray Williams Jr., and it would be natural to think he would struggle to get going in his first TV appearance of the season, but it was not the case. He actually started out with the first 3 strikes, was a little bit unfortunate to leave the 4-9 in the 4th, but Walter Ray on the other hand looked completely out of sorts, leaving 2 splits in the first 4 frames. Although Norm had an early 32-pin lead, it was clear he was struggling physically with his injuries and he also appeared to have a bad cold too. Luckily for him, he was facing a Walter Ray who could not get going and a late double by Norm sealed the match. In the title match, he played Ryan Schaefer and it was a battle. He wasn't 100%, that was clear. He did get some help from Schaefer though, who lost his ball reaction towards the end of the match. But Norm persevered and he grinded it out. He got the result and he won the World Championship. And this performance had saved a season that was plagued with illness and injuries. And most importantly, it gave him a multi-year exemption for the tour, which meant he no longer had to worry about fighting for points or winning titles to stay on the tour. The season was not quite over though, and there was still one more major to play for, the US Open. Luckily, he had found some form at the right time and was looking to ride the momentum from his World Championship win. He made the show as the 3 seed and in match 1 faced Doug Kent. On this very, very tough US Open pattern, Norm was playing very straight, probably the best way to attack this pattern, but he was just stringing strikes together with ease. And on this US Open pattern, he just seemed to make it look so easy, but it shows how well he was throwing the ball in game 1. Match 2 was a very high scoring one. Chris Loschetter started very strong and really put the pressure on Norm, but he wasn't going anywhere and got this fantastic break in the 6th frame. He was just on fire and locked in. Absolutely everything was falling for Norm. This was a big contrast to the World Championship show. Here, he just looked so much more confident. He was also likely feeling a lot healthier too, and this was definitely the Norm Duke we've gotten used to seeing on tour, and he finished with an excellent 267 game to advance to the title match. It was time for the 1 seed Major Mika to step in and try and take Duke down. This match was a fantastic battle, and it was almost impossible to tell who would triumph. Suddenly it looked like Mika could take control of the match, and then Norm threw a turkey to take a 13-pin lead. Eventually, Norm just needed a spare to win the title. He left the bucket, and this was not straightforward, but this was a fantastic moment. He had to spare it, and he made it, and I love this reaction from him. And he steadied himself, made the spare, kept the ball on the lane in the field, and he would win 2 majors in a row. Given all of the problems he had for most of the season, it would have seemed unthinkable that he would have won 1 major, let alone back-to-back wins in the space of a month. This win told the bowling world he was back, and when he's in this sort of form, he is unstoppable. Now the season had ended, it was time to take some stock before attempting to carry forward this late surge of form that he found. The first major of the 08-09 season was the World Championship, and he had a chance to make PBA history by becoming the first player to win 3 major tournaments in a row. Once again, he made the TV finals, coming in as the 2 seed. He faced 3 seed Sean Rash in the semi-final. Rash got off to a quick start with 4 in a row, but it wouldn't be long before Norm would take the lead in the match. He came up clutch, getting all 3 strikes in the 10th, which meant he could not lose the match, but Rash would get this horrible break, leaving the 9-pin off a pretty great shot. And in the final, he would then go on to play Chris Barnes. And to be honest, there's not too much to say in this one because it was so one-sided. Norm just absolutely steamrolled through this one. Barnes couldn't get going at all and really struggled to make a match of it. Norm, though, was on a tear, throwing the first 7 strikes before leaving a 10-pin in the 8th. He would end up bowling a 259 game to win the match and seal his place in the history books. He was officially the first player in PBA history to win 3 consecutive majors. This capped off an absolutely remarkable run where he just seemed to be unstoppable. And what's, I think, most incredible about this run of dominance is how it came completely out of the blue after such a rough start to the 07-08 season. So now that we know exactly what happened and how he made history, let's analyse exactly how he managed to turn things around. What skills did he have to achieve this? Norm's start to his career, I believe, was the biggest factor in how he dealt with this situation. He burst onto the scene, becoming the youngest player ever to win a PBA title at 18 years and 345 days. He started as the 5 seed and ran the ladder, and even defeated Earl Anthony on the way. It looked like this would just be the start for him, but what happened next was very odd. He would not win another title for 7 years. He made a few shows in this period and made 1 title match after his 83 win, but apart from that, he didn't make any other title matches. I'm not exactly sure what happened. I think it was probably just a big learning curve for him. I also think it could have been the era too. His career definitely took off once reactive balls really came about, and 1993 onwards is when his career really started to take off. But that must have been a very tough 7-year period that he could have easily given up during that period. He could have put that first win down as a fluke, felt he wasn't good enough for the tour and walked away. But he didn't. He was resilient and he persevered. And I believe that is what helped him massively during this 07-08 season. Despite the rough start, he would not have been worried. He's been there before and still come back and turn things around. So I think having that patience, determination and resilience meant he didn't crumble just because of a few months of injuries and struggles. There's an important lesson we can all learn here, and that is nothing is ever smooth sailing. Even if you're the best in the world, you're going to have a lot of highs, but also a lot of lows. And just like the highs are really good, in turn, the lows can be really low. But it's all about how you deal with that and come back strong. It's important for us to accept that sometimes things won't work out, and perhaps they don't work out for good reasons. I think that he went on that 7-year title drought at the start of his career for a reason. I think it happened to give him certain skills that he needed to have such a successful career. And it proved it as he used those skills in that 07-08 season, but also at the end of his career too. His last singles title had come in 2012, and again it was a 7-year drought, and in 2019 he actually won back-to-back titles at the age of 54. Again, I don't think this would have been possible without him having that experience at the beginning of his career. Norm is the perfect example of how we need to take these difficult experiences and use them to better ourselves.